The elevator doors opened with that soft ding that luxury hotels perfect. Floor 12. My heels clicked against the marble as I walked down the hallway. Room 1247, 1245, 1243. There it was. 1247. I stood there for a moment, clutching the bottle of champagne I'd brought from our wine collection. Dom Perignon 2012. The same one we'd opened on our wedding night 12 years ago. I thought it would be the perfect surprise for David's big business meeting in Aspen. God, I was so naive. My hand trembled slightly as I raised it to knock. Something felt off. The hallway was too quiet, and there was this strange energy in the air that I couldn't quite name. But I pushed the feeling down. David was probably just stressed about his presentation tomorrow. Knock, knock, knock. "Room service," I called out playfully, trying to add some surprise to my voice. Footsteps, then a pause, then more footsteps, but they sounded frantic? The door handle turned and my world collapsed in 3 seconds. Jessica Reynolds stood there in nothing but a white hotel bathrobe, her blonde hair messy, her lipstick smudged. My husband's assistant. The girl who'd been working late nights with him for months. Mrs. Mitchell? Her voice was barely a whisper, but I caught the panic in her eyes. The champagne bottle slipped from my hands. The sound of it hitting the marble floor echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. Glass everywhere. Champagne foaming and spreading across the expensive carpet. "What are you doing here?" I asked, but my voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded hollow, distant, like it was coming from someone else's throat. That's when I heard him. David's voice from inside the room. "Jess, who is it? If it's room service, just tell them we don't need—" He appeared behind her, towel wrapped around his waist, hair wet from the shower. When he saw me, his face went through every emotion possible in about 2 seconds. Shock, fear, panic, then calculation. "Sarah, what are you— How did you— I can explain." "Can you? Can you really explain why your assistant is in your hotel room wearing nothing but a robe while you're half naked? Get dressed," I said quietly. "Both of you. Now." Jessica scurried back into the room. David stood there, frozen like a deer in headlights. "Sarah, listen to me. This isn't what it looks like." "Oh, really? Then what is it, David? What exactly am I looking at right now?" He stepped closer, and I caught the scent of her perfume on him. Something floral and young, and nothing like what I wear. The smell made my stomach turn. We were working on the Henderson account. Jessica spilled coffee on her dress and she was just cleaning up. I was in the shower because I had a long day and— "Stop," I held up my hand. "Just stop talking." The lies were so pathetic, so insulting to my intelligence that I actually felt embarrassed for him. Did he really think I was that stupid? That I'd believe such a ridiculous story? Jessica came back out, now dressed in a wrinkled business suit that clearly had been thrown on the floor. She couldn't meet my eyes. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm sorry you had to see this. It's not what you think." "Then what is it, Jessica? Please, enlighten me." She looked at David, then back at me. It was just business. We had to work late and David got me a separate room, but the key cards got mixed up and— "You're both terrible liars," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Absolutely terrible." David stepped forward again. "Sarah, please. Let's go home and talk about this. There's nothing going on between Jessica and me. She's just an employee." "Just an employee?" I laughed, but it came out broken, bitter. "David, she's wearing the same perfume you bought me for Valentine's Day, the same one that's been on your shirts for months, the same one I've been smelling in our house, in our car, on our couch." His face went pale. "You want to know what's funny? I actually convinced myself I was being paranoid. All those late nights, all those business trips, all those times you came home and went straight to the shower. I told myself I was being a jealous wife, that I needed to trust you more." I looked at Jessica. She was young, beautiful, everything I used to be before 12 years of marriage and building a life with someone who was apparently building a different life with someone else. "How long?" I asked. "Sarah, don't do this to yourself." "How long, David?" Silence. The kind of silence that fills up a room and makes it hard to breathe. 8 months, Jessica whispered. 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of I love you and how was your day? And I missed you while he was sharing a bed with her. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break. Crack. Like ice on a frozen pond when the temperature starts to rise. I need to go, I said. Sarah, wait. Don't follow me. I walked back toward the elevator, stepping over the broken glass and champagne stains. My heels clicked against the marble again, but this time it sounded different. Sharper. Angrier. As the elevator doors closed, I saw David standing in the hallway, still in his towel, watching me leave. He looked small. Pathetic. Nothing like the man I thought I'd married. The elevator descended, and with each floor, I felt something changing inside me. The heartbreak was still there, crushing and raw, but underneath it was something else. Something colder. Something that whispered, "This isn't over." I walked through the hotel lobby with my head high, ignoring the stares from other guests who could probably sense the drama radiating from me. The doorman opened the door with a polite smile. "Have a good evening, ma'am." "Oh, I will," I said. "I absolutely will." The drive home from Aspen was the longest 3 hours of my life. Every song on the radio seemed to be about love or betrayal. Every billboard, every exit sign, every mile marker reminded me that I was driving away from my old life and toward what exactly? I called in sick to work the next day, and the day after that. I couldn't face anyone. Couldn't pretend everything was normal when my entire world had just exploded. David came home 2 days later. He slipped into our house like a thief, quiet and careful. I was sitting in the living room, still in my pajamas, surrounded by tissues and empty coffee cups. "Sarah," he said softly, "we need to talk." I looked at him. Really looked at him. When had he started styling his hair differently? When had he started wearing cologne that wasn't the one I'd bought him? When had he stopped being the man I fell in love with? Talk about what, David? About how you've been lying to me for 8 months? About how you've been sleeping with your assistant while I've been home planning our anniversary dinner? He sat down across from me, and I noticed he was wearing a new shirt. Expensive. Definitely not from his usual stores. "I never meant for this to happen," he said. "But it did happen. For 8 months, it happened. Sarah, I love you. I've always loved you. Jessica is she's just a mistake. A mistake that lasted 8 months? A mistake you took to Aspen? A mistake you bought expensive gifts for?" His eyes widened. "How did you—" "The credit card statements, David. I see everything. The jewelry, the dinners, the hotel rooms. All of it." We sat in silence for a moment. The house felt different now. Smaller, like it was closing in on me. "I want to fix this," he said finally. "I want to save our marriage." "Do you? Or do you want to save yourself?" Over the next few days, I tried to act normal. I went back to work, smiled at my colleagues, attended meetings. But inside, I was dying. Every time my phone buzzed, I wondered if it was him texting her. Every time he worked late, I wondered if he was actually working. Then came the call that changed everything. "Sarah? It's Marcus." Marcus Chen had been my best friend since college. We'd stayed close even after I got married, and David had always been slightly jealous of our friendship. Marcus was a private investigator now, running his own firm in downtown Denver. "I heard about David," he said. "I'm sorry. How did you—" "Sarah, everyone knows. That's why I'm calling." My blood turned to ice. "What do you mean everyone knows?" "I mean the whole office. She's been bragging about it. About how she stole David from his boring old wife." The words hit me like a physical blow. I had to sit down. "She said that?" "Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't want to tell you, but I thought you should know. She's been telling people that David's going to leave you for her. That you're past your prime and don't understand him anymore." I felt something die inside me. The last piece of dignity I'd been clinging to. "There's more," Marcus continued. "I did some digging. David's been spending company money on her. Expensive dinners, jewelry, weekend trips, all charged to his corporate card as client entertainment. That's fraud." "Exactly. And Sarah, I think his boss knows. I think they've been covering for him because he's a good salesman. But if this gets out publicly, he's done. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for an hour, staring at the wall. The same wall where we'd hung our wedding photos, our vacation pictures, our anniversary celebrations. All lies. All meaningless now. David came home that night acting like nothing had happened. He kissed my forehead, asked about my day, complained about traffic. Normal husband behavior. As if he hadn't destroyed our marriage. As if he hadn't humiliated me in front of his entire office. "How was Jessica today?" I asked casually over dinner. He nearly choked on his food. "What do you mean?" "I mean, how was she at work? Is she handling the Henderson account well?" "Sarah, I told you, there's nothing." "I know what you told me, David. I also know what everyone else is saying." He went very still. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that your entire office knows about your affair. I'm talking about the fact that Jessica has been bragging about stealing you from your boring old wife." His face went white. "Sarah, that's not—" "She wouldn't say that." "Wouldn't she? Are you sure? Because apparently she's been quite vocal about your relationship, about how you're going to leave me for her, about how I'm too old and boring to keep a man like you." David opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in our marriage, he had nothing to say. "You know what the worst part is?" I continued. "It's not that you cheated. It's not even that you lied. It's that you made me feel like I was going crazy. All those times I asked if something was wrong. All those times I said I felt disconnected from you. You made me think it was my fault. You made me think I was paranoid and insecure. Sarah, you stole 8 months of my life, David. 8 months. Where I could have been moving on, finding someone who actually wanted to be with me. Instead, I was here, trying to fix a marriage that you had already destroyed." I stood up from the table, leaving my dinner untouched. "I'm sleeping in the guest room," I said. "And David? If you bring her to our house, if you continue this relationship under my roof, I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are." He didn't argue. He didn't try to stop me. He just sat there looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. That night, lying in the guest bed, I made a decision. I wasn't going to be the heartbroken wife anymore. I wasn't going to be the woman who got discarded for someone younger and prettier. I was going to be the woman who won. The next morning, I called Marcus. "I need your help," I said. "And I need you to be completely honest with me about what David's been doing." "Sarah, are you sure you want to know? Some of this stuff is going to hurt." "Marcus, I'm already hurt. I'm already humiliated. What I need now is ammunition." We met at a coffee shop in Cherry Creek, far enough from both our offices to avoid any awkward encounters. Marcus spread out a manila folder on the table between us. "I've been investigating since we talked yesterday," he said. "Your husband is in more trouble than you know." The documents he showed me were devastating. Credit card statements showing thousands of dollars in charges to jewelry stores, expensive restaurants, weekend hotels. All of it marked as business expenses on his company reports. "This is embezzlement," I said, scanning the papers. "It gets worse. Look at this." He handed me a series of printed emails. My hands shook as I read them. Messages between David and Jessica, planning their trips, laughing about their secret meetings, making jokes about how clueless I was. "She calls me the wife in these emails," I said quietly. "Not Sarah, not even David's wife, just the wife, like I'm some obstacle to their happiness." "Sarah, no, it's good. I need to see this. I need to know exactly who I'm dealing with." Marcus leaned forward. "There's something else. I found out that David's been telling people at work that you two are separated, that you're getting divorced and he's already moved on." The coffee cup in my hand started to shake. "What?" "He's been laying the groundwork for months, making it seem like your marriage was already over before Jessica came into the picture. Classic cheater behavior. Rewrite history to make themselves look better." I set the cup down carefully. "So, according to him, I'm the crazy ex-wife who won't let go?" "That's the narrative he's been building, yes." Something clicked into place in my mind. A cold, clear understanding of exactly what had been happening. "He's been planning this all along," I said. "The affair, the financial fraud, the lies about our marriage. He's been systematically destroying everything while making sure he looks like the victim." Marcus nodded. I think you're right. And Sarah? I think he's planning to leave you with nothing. The house, the savings, the investments, he's been moving money around. Small amounts, but consistently. To where? Joint accounts with Jessica. Investments in her name. He's been building a nest egg for their future. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I almost laughed. Almost. What are my options? I asked. Legally? You could file for divorce, expose the embezzlement, and probably get everything in the settlement. But Sarah, that could take years. And David's smart. He'll try to hide or spend everything before you can get to it. What about professionally? Marcus smiled. Now that's where it gets interesting. David's company takes fraud very seriously. If his boss knew about this, he'd be fired immediately. And Jessica? She'd be considered an accomplice. His boss doesn't know? I don't think so. I think David's been careful to keep it under the radar. But if someone were to present this information in the right way— I stared at the documents, my mind working. What's the company's policy on relationships between supervisors and subordinates? Forbidden, immediate termination for both parties. And fraud? Criminal charges. Termination. Blacklisting from the industry. I gathered the papers and put them back in the folder. I need copies of everything. And Marcus, I need you to find out when David's company is having their next big event. Why? Because I'm going to give them a presentation they'll never forget. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a different person. I woke up early, went to the gym, got my hair done, bought new clothes. I started acting like the confident, successful woman I'd forgotten I was. David noticed the changes, but attributed them to the wrong reasons. "You look good," he said one morning, watching me get ready for work. "Are you feeling better about everything?" "I'm feeling like myself again," I said, which was true, just not in the way he thought. I was meticulous in my planning. I reached out to my professional network, updated my resume, and started putting together a portfolio of my best work. I also started documenting everything: David's late nights, his phone calls in the other room, his sudden interest in expensive gifts and clothes. The breakthrough came when Linda, David's mother, called me. "Sarah, honey, I need to talk to you about something." Linda had never liked David's career in sales. She thought he was too charming for his own good, too willing to bend the truth to get what he wanted. She'd always been kind to me, but I'd sensed she was disappointed in her son's choices. "What is it, Linda?" "David's been asking me for money. He says it's for a business investment, but Sarah, he's never been good with money. And he's been acting strange lately. Secretive." I closed my eyes. "Linda, there's something I need to tell you." I told her everything. About Jessica, about the affair, about the embezzlement. Linda listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "I'm not surprised," she said finally. "I'm disappointed, but not surprised. That boy has always thought he was smarter than everyone else. I'm sorry, Linda. I know he's your son. He's my son, but that doesn't mean I approve of what he's doing. Sarah, what can I do to help?" That's when I knew I had everything I needed. "Actually," I said, "I might have an idea." The plan was beautiful in its simplicity. David's company was having their annual holiday party at the Ritz-Carlton, the same hotel where I'd discovered his affair. The irony was too perfect to ignore. The Ritz-Carlton looked exactly the same as it had 3 weeks ago. Same marble floors, same crystal chandeliers, same elevator that had carried me to my heartbreak. But this time, I wasn't the broken wife coming to surprise her husband. I was something else entirely. I wore a black dress that cost more than David's monthly car payment. My hair was perfect, my makeup flawless, and I carried myself like the successful businesswoman I'd forgotten I was. The invitation in my purse was my ticket to the show. "Sarah Mitchell, new compliance consultant," I'd told David's boss when I called him 2 days ago. "I understand you're looking for someone to review your employee expense policies?" It had been that simple. One phone call, one professional reference from a former client, and suddenly I was the featured speaker at their holiday party. Amazing what you can accomplish when you stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a predator. The ballroom was packed. 200 employees, their spouses, management, even some clients. David was there, of course, looking handsome in his expensive suit. Jessica was beside him, wearing a red dress that screamed "other woman" to anyone paying attention. They saw me the moment I walked in. David's face went through the same cycle of emotions I'd seen in the hotel hallway. Shock, fear, confusion, then calculation. Jessica just looked terrified. "Sarah," David pushed through the crowd toward me. "What are you doing here?" "I'm working," I said calmly. "I'm the compliance consultant your company hired." "You're the what? Didn't Mr. Peterson tell you?" "I'm here to present our findings on expense account irregularities." David's boss, Robert Peterson, appeared at my elbow. "Mrs. Mitchell, so glad you could make it. Are you ready for your presentation?" "Absolutely," I said, smiling. "I think everyone's going to find it very illuminating." The presentation setup was perfect. A large screen at the front of the room, a podium with a microphone, and a crowd of people who had no idea what was about to happen. I'd spent 2 weeks preparing this moment, and every slide was a masterpiece of professional destruction. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Peterson announced, "I'd like to introduce Sarah Mitchell, our new compliance consultant. She's here to discuss some important findings about our expense account policies." Applause. Polite, corporate applause from people who had no idea they were about to witness a public execution. I stepped to the podium and looked out at the crowd. David was standing near the back, Jessica beside him, both of them looking like they wanted to disappear. "Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight to discuss a serious issue that affects every one of you: the misuse of company funds." The first slide appeared on the screen. A simple chart showing expense account spending over the past year. Nothing dramatic, just numbers. As you can see, most employees stay well within their allocated budgets, but there are some notable exceptions. The second slide showed individual spending patterns. David's name wasn't on it yet, but I could see him shifting uncomfortably in the crowd. Tonight, I want to focus on one particular case study: an employee who has been systematically defrauding this company for the past 8 months. The third slide was a photograph of a jewelry store receipt. $3,200 for a diamond necklace, charged to the company as client entertainment. This employee has been using company funds to purchase expensive gifts, pay for luxury hotel rooms, and finance an elaborate personal lifestyle. The fourth slide showed restaurant bills: high-end steakhouses, wine bars, intimate dining spots, all charged as business expenses. The total amount of fraudulent charges exceeds $47,000. A murmur went through the crowd. This was more than anyone had expected. "But the fraud itself isn't the most interesting part of this story," I continued. "What's interesting is who was receiving these gifts." The fifth slide was a photograph of Jessica wearing the diamond necklace, a selfie she'd posted on social media, tagged with "gifts from my special someone." The room went completely silent. The employee in question has been having an affair with his subordinate and using company money to fund their relationship. The sixth slide showed David and Jessica entering a hotel together. Marcus had been thorough in his investigation. Not only is this a violation of company policy regarding relationships between supervisors and subordinates, but it's also criminal fraud. I looked directly at David. His face was completely white. "The employee I'm referring to is David Mitchell, your senior sales manager." The reaction was immediate and devastating. Gasps, whispers, people turning to stare at David and Jessica. Some people pulled out their phones to record what was happening. "Mr. Mitchell has been telling his colleagues that his marriage is over, that he's separated from his wife. But I can confirm that David and I are still very much married. We live in the same house, share the same bank accounts, and until 3 weeks ago, I had no idea he was stealing from his employer to fund his affair." David tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "Sarah, you can't—" "I can and I am," I said into the microphone. "Because you didn't just steal from this company, David. You stole from me. You stole 8 months of my life, my dignity, my trust, and my future." The seventh slide showed bank statements, credit card bills, and email exchanges between David and Jessica. Everything laid out in devastating detail. Ms. Reynolds, David's accomplice in this fraud, has been bragging to colleagues about her relationship with a married man. She's been telling people that she stole David from his boring old wife. Jessica tried to leave, but the crowd was too thick. She was trapped, just like I had been trapped in my marriage. I'm recommending immediate termination for both employees, criminal charges for embezzlement, and a complete audit of all expense accounts. Mr. Peterson stood up. Mr. Mitchell, Ms. Reynolds, you need to leave immediately. Security will escort you out. But I wasn't finished. There's one more thing, I said. Mr. Peterson, I believe your company could benefit from a more thorough compliance program. I'd like to propose a 6-month consulting contract to help you prevent this kind of fraud in the future. He nodded grimly. I think that's an excellent idea. As security escorted David and Jessica out of the ballroom, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Victory. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Within 48 hours, David was officially terminated and Jessica was transferred to Detroit, a move that effectively ended her career advancement at the company. The local news picked up the story of the corporate fraud case, though they kept the details about the affair out of their reporting. David came home that night looking like a broken man. His confident swagger was gone, replaced by the hunched shoulders of someone who'd lost everything in a single evening. Sarah, we need to talk, he said. I was sitting in the living room, exactly where I'd been 3 weeks ago when he came home from Aspen. But everything was different now. I was different. What's there to talk about, David? You're unemployed. You're about to be charged with embezzlement, and your girlfriend is moving to Detroit. I think the situation is pretty clear. He sat down across from me, and I noticed he was still wearing the expensive shirt he'd bought with stolen money. I never meant for any of this to happen, he said. Yes, you did. You meant all of it. You planned it, you executed it, and you enjoyed every minute of it until you got caught. Sarah, I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you. I looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no love. Just emptiness where all those emotions used to be. No, David. You love the idea of me. You love having a wife who pays half the bills and keeps your house clean and doesn't ask too many questions. But you don't love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent 8 months lying to my face. What do you want me to do? I'll do anything. I want you to move out. Sarah, I want you to move out. And I want you to take nothing with you except your clothes. Everything else stays here. His face went pale. You can't do that. Half of everything is mine. I smiled. Actually, that's not true. See, while you were busy embezzling money and planning your new life with Jessica, I was busy protecting myself. All of our assets have been moved into accounts that only I control. That's impossible. I would have noticed. Remember all those papers you signed without reading? The ones you said were for tax purposes and estate planning? Those were asset transfer documents. Everything is in my name now. David stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. You taught me something valuable, David. You taught me that the person you trust most can destroy you if you're not careful. So I stopped being careful with you and started being careful with myself. This is insane. You're acting crazy. Am I? Let me tell you what's crazy. What's crazy is spending 8 months lying to your wife's face. What's crazy is stealing from your employer to buy jewelry for your girlfriend. What's crazy is telling people your marriage is over while you're still sleeping in the same bed as your wife. I stood up and walked to the window. Our house, my house now, looked exactly the same as it had a month ago, but I saw it differently now. It wasn't a prison anymore. It was a foundation. I've filed for divorce, I said. My lawyer will be in touch with you about the details. You have until the end of the week to collect your belongings. Sarah, please don't do this. We can work through this. I turned back to him. David, do you know what the worst part of this whole thing was? It wasn't finding you with Jessica. It wasn't even the lying. It was the way you made me feel like I was losing my mind. Every time I questioned you, every time I said something felt wrong, you made me think I was paranoid and insecure. I never meant. You destroyed my ability to trust my own instincts. You made me doubt myself so completely that I almost didn't believe my own eyes when I saw you with her. David opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. The beautiful thing about hitting rock bottom is that it forces you to remember who you were before someone else broke you. And David, I'm really good at what I do. I'm smart, I'm successful, and I'm finally free to be myself again. He left that night. I watched him pack his expensive clothes and his fancy cologne, and I felt nothing but relief. 6 months later, I was running my own consulting firm. David's former company became my biggest client, and the fraud prevention program I developed has been implemented at companies across Colorado. Jessica moved back to Denver eventually, but her reputation in the corporate world was destroyed. David found work at a small firm in Grand Junction, making half what he used to make. As for me, I'm happier than I've been in years. I have my own apartment in downtown Denver, a thriving business, and for the first time in over a decade, I'm living my life for myself. The door that changed everything didn't just close on my marriage. It opened to a future I never knew I wanted, and I'm never looking back.